Hello guys, I hope you are doing well. So in this next episode of our data science series, we are going to do some data visualization using Python, and I'm going to start right away. So at this point we are going to retrieve the data using the URL retrieve library in Python, the way we've been doing the others. So import pandas as PD, and from that we are going to import URL. Let's import the plotting library first. So as PLT. So let's compile that cell so that we import the modules. So in our next cell we are going to retrieve the data. So first, before retrieving the data, let's do basic plotting using Python, how we can plot graphs using some x and y values, so that we understand how the plotting is done using Python matplot library. So after this is when we are going to compare some real life data. So let's have some x and y values in form of an array. So we have values of x and y. Let's have the w also array values. So we've already defined the three variables in form of array values. So I know from Python basics, array is one of the basics that you must master. So if you don't understand arrays really well, make sure you watch my Python basics course in this series. So after this, what we are doing here is that we are plotting values of x against y, and again we are plotting values of x against w, sorry, not z but w. So plt.title to give. So this is the basic plotting of graph in Python. So to give the title, you just have the plt.title, and then you write the title of the graph. This one is really simple and really easy to master. So let's have our x label. So x label is what is the label we give to the x-axis. So we can name it x, and then we can have our y label as well. So let's give the label text. Let's call it y and w. Let's have the legend. So the legend is the description of the lines that we'll have within the graph. So the first parameter refers to the values as we are plotting them. So the first string there refers to the y and the second one. So you can have as many legend values as possible depending with the graph lines that you have. So we store them in form of an array format, and then we show the plot using the show function. So if we compile, we should be able to see the graph, and you can see it compiles without an error there. You can see the title, you can see the legend, text. So plotting a graph is as easy as this. So this is the basics of matplot library, and you can really master this really quick. I know now you have a grasp of what it means to display some values. So now after this we are going to perform some real-time data analysis. So we are going to analyze and analyze sample data that we have here. So this will allow at the end of this you understand how you can visualize a data, a .csv data, that is. So let's retrieve the data from my Google account using URL retrieve. So from URL library.request import URL retrieve, and then we call the data, we retrieve the data frame, let's call it sample data, and then we pass in the URL which I already copied, so I'll just paste it. So our data is sample data.csv. And then now we retrieve the data using the URL retrieve method. So URL retrieve, we pass in two parameters, that is the data name and the file we want to read. And then after retrieving the file, now we'll use Python pandas to read the data. And then we'll use the matplot library to plot some graphs. So there is an error. So this is the data we are going to visualize, so I'll open it so that you can see. So let's read the data. First, let's call to display what we can see there. So when we read the data, we get the link to that data. We get the link. So when we copy the link and we run it, we'll be able to see the data that we have. So this is the sample data that we have. So we'll have 3 columns in rows. So it is the same data that we have here in Excel file, you can see it. 3 columns and the rows. So when we read the data, we will be able to get the same data in our notebook. So I'm going to use the pandas library to read the data. So that's the data in my GitHub account. You can see we have the data there. So let's read the data using Python pandas. I am trying to read the data from a specific column. So for example, when you want to view the data for column B, that is in index 2, that's the code that you need to have. But see, we are getting an error, so string object does not attribute column B. So okay, the problem is I'm trying to display the data without reading the data first using the pandas label. So you cannot perform any operation on data without reading the data first using the pandas library, even plotting. So let's just try plotting it without first reading the data. The code will not work. So you first have to read the data first. So I'll just write the code and then I'll go back and read the data. Then we'll be able to run the cell. Then it will finally execute. So this is now how we must read the data. So you read the data using Python pandas, and now when we compile it, you'll be able to see we are having the same data that we have in our Excel file and in the GitHub. So when you compile, you'll be able to read the data. So after reading the data now, you will be able to perform all the previous operations that we are trying to do. So after this, you are going to plot a graph of column A values against column B values, and then we can be able to compare the data. So we are basically going to visualize the data, which was the main objective of this video. So let's read the data first for specific columns, and we see now if the code will work. So data frame for column C, and then we check the index using the ilog function. Then we want to read the value at index 2, so at the very first index. So column C, the value in the first index, you can see we have 10 there. So we are able to read the data and visualize the data only after using Python pandas to read the data. So after reading it, so any other operations we can plot, we can compare. So let's now plot some graph. Let's visualize the data by plotting some graphs. So we are going to plot values for column A again, and the values for column C, that is. Let's do for A and B first. So we'll have a line of for column A and a line for column B, and then we plot another one for column A again. So we have A against B and A against C, and then we want to show the graph now. From the first basics code that we wrote, I know you understand this. So you can see now this is the graph. So we have A values and B values. So that was now plotting the graph by using real-time data. So in our next episode now we will do some comparison of the population, which is next immediately after this video. So make sure you follow along to understand much about data visualization using Python. So from this, I know you understand how you can plot graphs, you understand the title function, X label, Y label, the legend thing. I know you have a good grasp of this. So this was an introductory video to data visualization, and next now we are going to compare the data, the population growth of various countries in the world. So that's what we are going to do next. So just to summarize, let's add some legend, text, title. So let's add it up there. So let's add the title to just to make the graph look good. A graph without a title and the labels is not really a graph, and the legend text describing the lines, we must always have it. So let's do the same with this graph, and then that will mark the end of this video. So make sure you get notified when we post the series, the episodes of this series daily. So we are posting daily, so make sure you turn on that notification button there, you like the video, and then you subscribe, so that that's a motivation to us, so that we keep on this series. So up to this point now, let's run the cell once, and then we mark it the end of this lesson. So now from the graph you can see we have the legend text, we have the labels, and we have the title. So that's really nice. So you must always have those properties in your graph. You now know how to plot a graph, you know how to so make sure you do what the last cell really tells us. So this is basically plotting of graph. So if you are in the physics department, either in maths, economics, computing sciences, plotting of graphs is really a must, and you must always grasp this concept. So make sure you get notified when we will be comparing now the values we have. So thank you.